All right, guys. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm on here tonight for one specific thing that came to mind today while I was doing my most important meeting of the day, which is generating new business, generating leads, which is finding new homes for buyer clients or seller clients that are looking to move into particular neighborhoods or areas. Um, and sometimes buyers come into the fold there too. Um, but out of all the conversations I had today, there was one that really struck me, and I think it deals with the human aspect of real estate at the end of the day. Um, See, every day we deal with all types of stuff in real estate. Like, you don't even know the types of stuff that we deal with. But there is such a thing, where the humanity's lost sometimes. Like, sometimes I feel like when people are doing business, they think that it's just doing business. They forget that when we're speaking to clients are human, just like we are. Clients have everyday issues. They have things that go wrong. They have good days, they have bad days, and everything in between, right? But one of the main things that happens in real estate is that sometimes people look at others as business, as just a lead, right? Where I take a more humane look at what I'm dealing with, especially with what today was, right? So today I was going through some of the people that I've spoken to in the past. Mostly it was people that were thinking about selling their home at some point, and this particular person, we spoke, I want to say it was like 2 3 years ago. We've had very little conversations since then, but I take very meticulous notes. So I remember that the person was not able to sell, or wasn't willing to sell at the moment, because as a landlord, he actually had really good tenants that had informed him that they were going to go purchase a property. And they actually mattered to him. And he he looked at it from a perspective that I thought was refreshing, where he was excited for them to go onto that journey themselves and to find a place and to actually purchase a property. And they were taking their time, and of course, because of how the market has been over the past few years, there have been some people that have been looking for a few years and were not able to find a property, whether they had issues with the down payment, or they just couldn't find the type of property, or the prices jumped too much for what their budget was at the time. And as we went on, life happens, which is why I try to urge people, when they are engaged in making a transaction happen, like when they want to move, to make it happen, because life happens. And things prioritize, things, one thing after another stacks ahead of the need or the want or the priority that moving had at one point, and then years go by. So, needless to say, I was checking in just to see. It's the beginning of the year. Let's see if anything had changed. I just called to see if they had any questions about the current market in their area, and to see if anything had changed regarding the situation. I was like, I'm not really sure if you remember speaking to me, but this is what it is. And I told him from my notes exactly what I had. Last conversation with him was what I just said about these guys, the tenants looking to purchase, and he was giving them time. And then he hit me with the news that one of them had unfortunately passed away not too long ago, and that he wasn't in a position where he thought it was right, nor did he want to, ask them to move or need them to move, because at the end of the day, they did want to get a place, even if it was maybe purchase that exact place. But that, unfortunately, that's where he was right now. And I was like, well, please, let's just stop the real estate conversation right here. Like, there is a time and a place for everything. And you guys know, when something personal happens like that in your life, one of the last things you're thinking about, if not the absolute last, is about real estate and moving and all that stuff. So many other things and emotions and things become even more important when things like that happen in your life. And to hear his humane aspect, his caring, his empathetic aspect of caring about the people that live in his property, and the fact that he's been so lenient and patient and allowing them to chase their dreams, and then this to happen where it's an unfortunate situation, you know. And the funny thing is that it made me realize how important that the outreach that we provide as agents is. And I know that it sounds kind of weird me saying this, but let's say that it was a different situation where they actually needed help, where they actually needed guidance because that happened so unexpectedly and so recently that they're confused, and there's a lot of things that happen. I don't know if you guys watching this have ever gone through something like that, but there are a lot of moving parts when unfortunately someone passes away, and there's real estate involved and assets and the estate and things that belong to people and accounts and all of these different things that are overwhelming, especially when you could care less about them as the the people that are here that just lost somebody, but those things need to be handled. And I've talked about this on another video I made, but when I speak to people, I come from a place where I really think of myself as their best option. And besides the work ethic, besides, the tech ability and all that other stuff, my experience, it's because I actually care. And I feel like that is something that does set me apart, because a lot of times, you can tell who cares and who doesn't, who sees dollar signs, who doesn't, who has commission breath, who doesn't. And it's back-to-back appointments and conversations that I have where there's just stuff that's more important than real estate. The other day I met with somebody and literally told them, you know what, you should not sell. We'll get into that story another day. But with this story, if they would have needed that help, I would have never been able to be that guy that I consider myself, the one that can provide the help, the one that can provide the guidance, that has the connections to make all of that less stressful and less dark, even if it's a little bit of ease, a little bit of, pointing them in the right direction, even if I can't help them. It just made me realize that if you are coming from a good place as an agent or as a salesperson or as an advisor, as a consultant, what have you, and I'm all about doing the right thing so I can sleep at night. But if you come at it from a perspective of you're the person that's there to actually help, to guide, and that we are compensated for a service that is actually very helpful to people, and one that can impact the life and lives in a very positive way. So we have to take our license and our job very seriously and understand the great impact that we can have, and we can have a very positive impact. We can literally change people's lives. We can help them build wealth that they didn't even think was possible. And in a situation like this, where everything seems so dark, dire, and just, many things seem meaningless, at least a little window of things to focus on to solve one of the issues that comes up. At least that's some kind of something to distract you, or at least a little bit of solace. I don't know. But so I thought of it from that perspective. Man, what if they needed us? If I wouldn't have done it, somebody else would have called, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten the service and the help they needed. From the other perspective, how was I ever going to know that this happened to this potential client that I have been talking to, where his tenants had this situation happen, this sad situation, and I wouldn't have been able to, deepen a little bit of the relationship with them, and show them that I am human, and that when something catastrophic happens, or when there is something that is painful, that I'm the person that can be relied on. Even, as the conversation progressed, and the tone that we kept, and just the vibe of the whole conversation is like, listen, I just saved your information, and, whenever the time is right, I'll definitely reach out. And now I don't wait for that. I don't just sit back and wait because of how this video started. Life changes. Because let's say that they do say, I'll reach out to you. At the end of the day, their job is their job, right? My job is to remain top of mind for you guys, for the people that are going to hire me in the future. Because, as I said, I'm coming from contribution. So sometimes there's a thin line between persistence and being annoying. And one way that I've gotten over the annoying part of it, because I always hated that idea of being annoying, begging for business. If I'm actually trying to help people, then I'm not begging for anything. What I'm trying to do is I'm asking you, do you need help? And I don't know about you, but I feel like the world would be better if more people actually asked that question. And yes, do I get paid for the help I provide? Absolutely. You know, but at the end of the day, if I can impact lives, if I can change lives, if I can provide some of that solace, if I can provide solutions, I feel good about what I'm doing, right? Um, I saw a video that I'll post at some point, and we'll also have a chat about it, where I saw a video when I resigned my position, when I retired from my previous employment from 9 to 5, and I became a real estate agent, and my resign my farewell speech was actually live. I have the video of it, and it reminded me like why I got into this in the beginning. It was I always wanted to be my own business. I always wanted to be an owner. I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to be able to mix both. I always wanted to be able to be wealthy and a good person, to be, a CEO and not be afraid to get my hands dirty and work and do, never be too good for the things that need to be done, you know, and and in a situation like this, there's different types of people that would approach what happened this morning, this conversation that I had. Some people would, try to hammer home, but let's meet, let's talk, now's the best time to sell, or whatever. Or, let me send that family something and try to see if I can get them to move. And that way I can get that check moving. I just don't see the world that way. I don't see how you can look at such a tough thing that happened and try to take advantage of it in some way, or at least that's kind of what that feels like. It just feels slimy to me. I rather be, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here, right? And I think I approach it the way I want to be approached, I guess. I treat others the way I want to be treated, I guess, is what that would be, and it's not easy. I've dealt with this several times before, where I've had people unfortunately pass away during at the start of a transaction, like literally just after signing paperwork. I've had, and then you have to deal with probate, which we can talk about sometime. I'll have somebody on here. We'll talk a little bit more about that and estate planning. And then I've had, where the person, passed away, and then their family has to deal with everything, you know, without really any guidance. They don't really know what the next step is, because a lot of us don't think about this stuff. We're not worried about tomorrow. We're too wrapped up in our own things going on every single day, and we're not worried about, what we have to do to protect future assets, like, or somebody else's assets, or our family's assets. But these are conversations and things we need to have top of mind, and then to talk about at least a little bit. And when you deal with these types of, like what I was saying, with people passing away, I had one where I spoke. It was actually the first appointment I ever went on. Oddly enough, I had been following up with this guy for a long time, and unfortunately he passed away. But I was speaking to him. I was sending him information. I was sending him postcards like we were taught over the years, or not even over the years. It was over a few months before this happened, and his daughter called me, and it was because some of the stuff that I mailed was at his house, and I met with her, and we had a long meeting, and I was a little intimidated because it was my first appointment, and I thought that because it was a long meeting, it was going well. But at the end of the day, she was taking time to clean up and to get rid of stuff and to sell stuff and try to get people, like estate sales people to come in and tag stuff and see what things are worth and sell it. And there had to be repairs done to the property, and I think there was some kind of violation on it. And at the end of the day, I wasn't, there was somebody, your father passed away, so I didn't want to infringe upon that. And like I said, several other times, there's been this kind of thing. But that first time where I was like, okay, just let me know, if you do need my help or when you're thinking about it and this and that and the other. And I didn't follow up at a high level. And I didn't do it, I didn't reach out a lot because somebody just passed away. Like, so I know people that would have been more aggressive, and I lost that listing. I didn't get it, and I might lose this one. But I just don't feel comfortable, you know, like pushing in on such delicate matter, you know, because I just putting myself in the prospective client's shoes, and even his tenants, like I would not want anybody on this earth to do that to me, and I'm not saying that people that do more outreach than me in a situation like that are wrong, but I can tell you that I feel wrong doing it. And I was just reminded of that this morning, and I was also reminded the last two conversations. I think that both of them could have been clients. The first one definitely like an immediate client. This one down the road, if I was more pushy and if I tried to, to get the deal, to get the contract signed, the listing signed, and just just the way I'm wired, I can't see that being the way to be, So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with them. I will stay in contact with them at a reasonable rate that I think, based on what I've learned, based on how, I would want to be, communicated to. I'm not going to go directly to the family either. It's just going to be to the owner, and provide valuable information to them, so that when the time comes, they're armed with a knowledge that will make them, or that will enable them to make a really good decision, for them, for their, for maybe for their tenants, for their property at the end of the day, and but still maintain that human element of something very serious just happened, and I'm not going to put business ahead of that, you know? But I also can't not be there when the time comes. So that's kind of the thin line that you have to, you know, walk as an agent. And it can be very uncomfortable sometimes. But, but it's just another reason to remind you how important it is to stay in front of the people that you speak to over and over again, because during the beginning of the day, yes, we're doing lead generation, we're let's call it business acquisition, but if you don't follow up on it, if you're not communicating with people on a consistent basis and providing valuable information, or at least value in some way, shape, or form, even if it is a care call, if you're not doing that, then there was really not even a point to acquire the new business in the first place. Because if you're not communicating with them, they don't know you exist. So it's a thin line. It's a thin line, and it's something we wrestle with. At least I wrestle with it. But like I said before, with the belief that I'm the best one for the job, that I actually care, and that I will do my best to make sure you do the best possible choices, that you make the best possible choices, that I protect your wealth, that I have your best interest at heart, and throw in the work ethic, throw in how no one will work harder, no one has the same tech ability, the marketing, the experience, the know-how. Put that all on top, the cherry on top, but the care is what to me means more. So by reaching out, I am caring. By reaching out, I am trying to help people and impact lives at the end of the day. That's what it all comes down to. But there are things that are more important than real estate. It's just that simple. Guys, thank you so much for staying with me this long. I know this was a long one, but I just wanted to share this because this one hit near and dear to my heart, and it was something where, I promised myself of more documenting versus creating this year, and I think that showing more of the authentic side, showing more of the stuff that's not just glitz and glamour, I think is valuable. I think it allows more of a connection and it allows you to kind of get to know me, even if you didn't speak to me or you don't know me, so that you know what I'm about and how I can help. And again, no question is too small. No timeline is too far, in advance. I rather you have a game plan in place, have a team in place, and have peace of mind that you know where you're headed. Whether that's now, a couple months from now, a year, a couple of years from now. I want to help as many people as I possibly can in my career. So, with your help, I know that I can, and I'm looking forward to the most impactful year of my life so far in 2026. And I'll thank you guys ahead of time. So, with that, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. I am exhausted. Don't know if you can tell, but but I'm done. So, thank you guys again. And if you guys need me at all, you can always reach me at 917-982-8899. Again, 917-982-8899, or email me at dgarcia@kw.com, or comment below, say hi, and I'll make sure to reach out to you individually. Thanks, guys, so much, and really, really appreciate your just your presence and